Welcome to MMT Chats. This episode is brought to you by ISCAR with new ideas for machining intelligently. Hey, MMT followers. I am Christina Fuges, Editorial Director with MoldMaking Technology, and my guest on today's MMT Chat is Rob McMaster with Excel Tool and Mold, who is one of MMT's 30 under 30 honorees, and he happens to work at MoldMaking Technology's 2019 Leadtime Leader Award-Winning shop. So hello, Rob.
Hello, how are you?
Good. So I first want to ask, how does being nominated and then selected as one of MMT's 30 under 30 honorees make you feel?
It's kind of crazy. Whenever my manager told me that he was going to nominate me, I was just kind of like, okay, cool. Like, it's cool to be nominated, but now that I'm actually picked, it's just kind of crazy, you know?
I love that. So what is your current position and job function right now?
So I'm a process engineer. What I do, I set up and sample new tools and even older tools that they'll send in to get looked at. I'll run DOEs and validations for tools for our customers to run at their facilities.
Okay. So how long have you been with Excel?
Coming up about to be 2 years.
Okay,
And
nice. All right.
in
So
May, full time.
in
So
May. Oh, yeah. So that's coming up soon. So to give those who are listening, I want to paint this picture of how you got to where you are. So um, as succinctly as you can, give us a
yeah.
brief snapshot of just your journey, not only to getting into manufacturing or mold making, but even specifically, your education, your job history. How did you end up at Excel?
Yeah, so I went to Penn State Barron for plastics engineering, and I had a few different internships, Chelsea Building Products, Phillips Respironics, and Beaumont Technologies.
Oh, nice.
And then, so whenever I was at Phillips, my manager there, I liked working there a lot, so I was talking to him about what I wanted to do eventually. He said the first thing you should do is get into either manufacturing or production and that kind of stuff to get real hands-on. 'Cause he said that's the best way to learn how to actually how everything kind of works, and gives you that knowledge where if you do want to get into a manager's position or something that's not as hands-on, you'll have that background. So I got an email from my professor saying that Excel was hiring, and I applied, and I started working as an intern in March before I graduated, and then when I graduated, I went full-time.
That's awesome. In your circle of friends, out of curiosity, family and friends, is anybody in manufacturing?
Both my parents work for Emerson Process Management,
Okay.
but they're both more computer engineers on the computer side. So not
Okay.
necessarily in manufacturing, but kind of similar to that.
Yeah. So you're at least exposed to companies that manufacture things, right? That make
Yes.
things. How
Yep.
about friends?
Yeah, I have a few that I
Okay.
graduate with mostly, and then a couple of my friends are more on the design side for
Okay.
that kind of stuff. So.
Cool. All right. So looking at the time you've spent within manufacturing so far, what has been your number one challenge?
I would say whenever we're making new tools, we build them directly for the customers. So for their specific specs on their machines and what they're using. And sometimes we don't actually have all of the uh, correct tools, or our machines are set up for a different type of spec. So
Mm.
kind of working around what we have here to make
Hmm.
it work as best as possible. So
Hey, that
a lot
takes a
of,
certain amount of brain
yeah.
power.
Yeah, there's a few stuff that I'm not really great at, like electrical wiring and stuff like that. So that's has to deal with that mostly, but yeah, just kind of working around what we have here to make everything work as best as possible, I would say.
Okay. What do you think's been your proudest moment so far, or we could say your top accomplishment?
I mean, my top accomplishment would probably be this. Um,
Nice.
yes. So other than that, I just uh, seeing tools go out the door that I know that I've worked on and that kind of stuff, and then seeing them in like stores and saying, oh, like I've worked on something like that, or I've actually worked on that
Yeah.
specific product before.
I mean,
It's pretty
where
cool.
else? Yeah, where else can you actually show somebody? You know, you pick up a bottle, you pick up whatever it might be, and say, "I did this to make this." Like
Yeah,
that manufacturing, that is probably the coolest part about it. Is you literally have a hand in making something that someone's going to buy and use.
yeah, exactly.
It's awesome.
That's why I wanted to get into engineering. So that's kind of what I think is pretty cool about it.
It is. All right.
Mm.
So I would imagine entering manufacturing and mold making specifically, you know, there's a ton of misconceptions and myths about what it's actually really like. So on a personal level, now that you've been in it for a while, was there a certain misconception that you had that just got like busted wide open? You're like, wow, I thought it was this, but it really isn't at all.
I don't know if it's just this shop here or a few different shops, but whenever you think of manufacturing, it's a lot of older shops and kind of dirty and not really kept super clean. But I know where I work at now, Excel, and I've seen a few other shops. It's actually really clean. They keep everything really well kept for the most
Yeah.
part.
It's that dirty, dark, and dingy that people always classify it as. It's
Mhm.
rare that I have been in a shop in the past 20 some years where it's like that, which is sad
Mhm.
because as a industry, you can't believe we're talking in 2021. Some people still have that feeling about it. And there's
Mhm.
computers, software, automation. Like you think of robotics, think about what's happening, and that's not what people picture. So yeah, I agree with
Yep.
that one.
Yep.
So what is the most interesting, and I know the technology Excel has, but
Yeah.
to you, whether you use it or not, so let's just say in terms of what you see there, I guess
Okay.
if you use it, that's fine. What is
Yeah.
the most interesting technology that you've experienced?
Um, Probably. So the one that I've actually used is the influx technology.
Oh, okay.
Um, so it's a new way to injection mold parts. It allows for you control it by pressure through the cavity, I believe. And
Okay.
I've been trained on this a little bit, so I'm not really the expert on it yet. But it's just a different way of molding stuff, and it really opened my mind to the different ways that the different types of parts that you can actually make that maybe standard injection molding really can't do with the high
Aha.
pressures and that kind of stuff. And
I
I
don't think
also
I
think,
knew that Excel was involved with influx. So that technology or that process was
mm,
under wraps for a number of years. They didn't want people to know that. I don't think I knew you guys were into that.
yep.
I would imagine that opened the door to new customers or new projects.
Well, we're working on it for one specific project right now.
Okay.
So
Okay.
once we get through with that, it could be something that we'll use to open up more doors, saying that we have experience
Hmm,
with it and that kind of stuff. So,
exciting.
mm,
So, all right, speaking of that, so that kind of rolls into my next question. What is the most interesting part of your job and why?
I would say just being able to test all different types of tools every day. It's not besides like retesting and all that kind of stuff. It's almost something new every day, and that's what I really wanted coming out of college was something that wasn't repetitive and just sitting at a desk and typing into the same Excel sheet the entire time. You know, like that boring picture you get. But it's something new. It's hands on, and that's probably it. The
Okay.
being able to do something new every day.
I would imagine that you are of a lot of different types of projects. So, what would you say up to this point? What is the most interesting customer project you've worked on? And can you describe your role with that project and what the project entailed?
Yeah, so it actually deals with the influx technology
Okay.
that we got. So it's a very thin part. I think it's 17 thou thick and
Ooh,
7 inches long.
okay.
So standard injection molding for uh, materials other than polypro, it's pretty much impossible to be able to mold with that. So being able to mold with influx, we've been able to use, and a little bit of rock tool as well. We've tried as
Wow.
well. So being able to be a part of that project and really push the limits of how thin you can actually make an injection molded part is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Mm.
All right, so let's segue a little bit to the culture there at Excel. And I know from being there when we featured them, there was a pretty decent array of generations there, and mentoring plays a big role in how you can bridge the gap between those generations. But people define that different ways. So when you think about mentoring or being a mentor, being a mentee, how do you, Rob, define mentoring?
I would say it's teaching someone with not as much experience the correct way or the proper way to do things around the shop or a specific process method and that like that pretty much.
Now, how do you experience that within Excel? Can you explain if it's an informal activity or thing that goes on, or is there something formal at Excel?
So I would say it's more informal. When we get new hires, at least in the molding department, people who might not have as much plastic experience running injection molding machines, we kind of just take them through everything. So it's not like a sit down and like a class type, but it's a on the job as we go. Hey, this is what you're gonna do with this. Hey, this is what we're gonna do with that, and really making sure that they understand all the parts of the process and really teaching them the correct way to do things.
Is there, and I know COVID probably played a big part in this, is there a lot of outside training that you guys do? Or do people come in? Is there virtual? How is that continuing kind of education happen?
Um, we so yeah, I did RJG training 1 and 2, so I know the some of the process engineers here or the other process engineer that we have now has went through it as well. So I know
Okay.
they're uh, big on getting RJG training if they see you being here for the long term and if it's the right time and all that kind of stuff. So I would say there is a little bit of outside training, but a lot of it's just in house.
You're just doing it, right?
Yep,
Getting your
exactly.
hands in there.
Exactly.
All
That's the
right,
best way
so
to learn.
it is always. That's the only way you remember sometimes.
Mhm.
People talking to you, you got to see it and experience it and feel it. So, looking at the future of mold making, right? The big issue is getting people like you into this trade. So, what do you believe has to change in, you can say, general manufacturing, even this niche mold making, to attract more people like you to come into this marketplace?
I would say it starts at just promoting it to high school or middle school students. Start at a
Mm,
younger age where they don't really have a preconceived notion of what manufacturing really is, and just tell them all the different ways you can get into manufacturing. Um, so whether it's the apprenticeship route or if you want to go to college and figure that out, um, I think that would help a lot. Just starting young.
Starting younger. That's what I agree with that, because people used to just say high school, and now you're seeing people go middle, even some elementary. Like if you can just think about all the things kids touch, and all you have to ask them is, how do you think that's made? Right? And
Yep.
start the conversation. I think you're right. Younger, the better.
Yep.
So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Uh, um, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know where exactly I go from here. I know I'd like to stay in manufacturing and keep with the hands-on. I like doing what I do now. So
Keep learning?
yeah, just keep
Yeah.
learning, keep growing, and try and gain more information every day.
And you definitely have your focus on the molding side of the
Mhm.
industry as opposed to designing and building the tools, correct?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Um, and that's important. A lot of shops today too, just like Excel, how that's where their growth is happening. A lot of mold builders are getting more into expanding what better than to build the tools or run the tools that you're going to build? Just
Yep.
makes you a better tool maker, makes you a better molder. So I think you're in a good spot for that. And at a great shop.
Yep.
So if I were to ask you to sell, you talk about reaching people younger. So if I was asking you to sell, not go that young though, to
Yep.
sell mold making as a career to a kid in high school, what would be your sales pitch?
I would say that Probably the amount of things that you can do in mold making is there's just a lot of things you can do in it, whether it's design, actually building the tools, running the tools. There's something for everyone, I would say. And there's a lot of different ways to go about getting into it as well. So if you don't think college is the right decision for you, there's apprenticeships, there's 2-year programs you can go to get that knowledge. You can go directly into working as well, or you can go the 4-year college route and get into it. So it has something for everyone, and you can, if you want to be hands-on, you can be hands-on. If you want to design things, you can design things, or if you actually want to make the parts, you can make the parts. So
I love it. Options, right? There's
yep,
options. Like,
yep,
don't pigeon. That's what I'm hearing over and over again. It's the fact that you don't have to pigeonhole yourself to one way, because you're even talking not even the manufacturing side, but like HR, marketing, sales, like any role in any company exists within a mold shop or a molding facility also. It's not just being a CNC operator or a wire EDM operator or a tool designer. There's all kinds of jobs within that environment, right? So it's options. And I like that you said, it doesn't mean that you can't go to college, or anybody's saying don't go to college. It's just that your options are open. You don't have to go to college to have a
yeah,
good, solid career. And I think that's what
exactly.
people need to understand. But
Yep,
also and sometimes the shops can pay your way for that additional education, which I don't think it's out there enough too. A
yep,
lot of perks. A lot
yep,
of perks.
exactly, exactly.
All right. Well, congrats again, Rob, and I want to thank you for your time. I'm sure we'll stay in touch as you progress and move up and move on within the industry. So again, thank you for your time. And everybody watching out there, visit moldmakingtechnology.com for everything mold making. Stay safe and healthy, and most importantly, stay informed and stay inspired.